Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Sabeen Foundation podcast called Geek, Dhaba. Today we'll be talking about The Mandalorian Season 2 and throwbacks to Season 1. Very much looking forward to this discussion. With me today, we have cosplayer Asad Shams, cosplayer Mubarak, avid movie and television fan Junaid, and cosplayer Samin Rahat. And starting us off, I feel like season two was just amazing. It had a lot of throwbacks to the Clone Wars. It had throwbacks to Rebels. It had just like things you wouldn't expect to see on live action. Like, did not expect to see characters like Bo-Katan on screen. Did not expect to see the dark saber in live action. Did not expect to see a white lightsaber in live action. If I'm being completely honest, because I've only ever seen that in comic books and video games. I've never actually seen it in live action form. And the storytelling, the pacing, everything was just phenomenal in my opinion. And I'd love to hear what everybody else here has to say about that. So I'm going to start off with Mubarak. Mubarak, what do you have to say about that?
Oh, season two was fantastic. 8 episodes, and this time around, I think only one episode felt like a filler. The passenger episode. Everything else was like good stuff, man. It made sense. I mean, it's the thing with Mando is it's all one big side quest. Okay, there's like no. I mean, there is a storyline, of course, that he has to. Well, in season two, that he has to return the child to the Jedi. But overall, that the whole season one thing, it works really nicely in season one. With season two, because there's the structure, I think they did the right thing with limiting the amount of filler episodes. I do have disagreements though, but that's like at the end of the season. Like, the beginning of the season, good stuff, yo. What do you think, Samin?
I have made no secret about how much I love this show, especially Baby Yoda, Grogu. We've all learned his real name in this season. But overall, like I'm a casual fan, not like all of you diehard fan. Like I haven't watched the animated series. My only knowledge comes from the movies. But overall, I loved it. It was amazing storytelling, and again, I'm really looking forward to season three and hopefully more seasons. Let's see, but I'm afraid for Grogu now, knowing what we know from the movies. Oh God. Yeah, but no, overall it was amazing. But it was really amazing. And next, I guess I have to hand over the mic, I guess, Junaid.
Okay, so hi, thanks for the passing over the mic thing. So again, I mean, they're doing it perfectly for the Mando seasons. After watching the Star Wars and the new stuff which came out, the Rogue series, if you call it, I didn't thought they would start to be like at that level where Star Wars left off. But the Mando was like brilliant. I mean, the story is brilliant. Pedro is like the masterpiece. I don't think nobody else can pull it off like really. The story. I mean, the second season is overall the best. I mean, there are some points in the season which are like confusing and which are boring a bit, but it's at the end of the season. But overall, it's a very good season. I didn't get bored at all watching it. So I mean, I enjoyed it. The Grogu part was brilliant. I mean, at some points you don't even feel like there is a difference between Yoda and Grogu. You kind of feel like Grogu is Yoda. So I'm going to pass the mic to Asad now to continue what he can.
Thanks, Junaid. So for me, the one thing that we can glean from Mandalorian is that you can have a very contained story. You can build new stuff. You can experiment with new stuff. I mean, the case of the Mandalorian, of course. I mean, it has been there in the comic books, but it's never been tried before. So it's just that what I really like about John Favreau and the other writer, I'm forgetting his name right now, that he was willing to take this risk, but at the same time, he was also, uh, respecting the source material. So that sort of like, pretty much establishes that we, the Star Wars fan, we just don't rely on nostalgia. We are open to new things as long as they keep connecting to the source material that we all know and love. The Last Jedi, sorry to say, but butchered it. For me, it didn't work that well. I was upset what they did with Luke, but John Favreau has given us the Luke Skywalker that we always deserved and loved. Like the kind, like the just badass comes in and everything. So that was just insane. That was just insane.
I would have to wholeheartedly agree, though. I have to say the Mandalorian just I don't know, man. I mean, you guys know this. I watched all of it today because life, and I have to say, despite 10.5 hours glued to my chair, I I just can't get over it. It was just such a good experience to be able to watch, and like having read some older books that are no longer canon, and seeing stuff like characters from the TV shows kind of make appearances. It's just great stuff. Like overall, fantastic atmosphere. I do kind of agree with Mubarak on some of the filler aspects of season two, even though season one was, in my opinion, more or less a one big side quest. Because like you could watch any episode in season one and not care about any of the previous episodes, and you wouldn't miss out on much. At least that's the feeling I got. But in season two, you couldn't do that. In season two, every episode had like some strings that kind of connected it to a previous episode. Oh, this person, we met them in this episode, or this person, we saw them in this episode last season. It, I feel like even though season one was fantastic, season one was more of a where can we take this story? And season two was, now that we know where we can take it, let's see how far we can take it. And
Exactly. How the risk taking part comes in. Like, of course, at some point they would have thought, okay, we're gonna bring Luke Skywalker in, and everybody would have been just like hushed at the table. I can just imagine they would be like, yeah, there's gonna be a backlash. Are you sure how you want to bring him? Because again, it's Mark Hamill is old. I don't think Sebastian Stan coming as Luke Skywalker would just go under the radar. And I think that was the best thing because they didn't recast for Luke Skywalker. They just digitally superimposed Mark Hamill's face on to the actor who was acting for Luke Skywalker. They did have to digitally de-age him, but a good like it connects back to the risk taking factor. Like they were willing to take that. They were willing to go for it. They're like, you know what, screw it. We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna give them.
The risk paid off. The risk paid off. Like everyone loves it. Like I don't think I've so far seen any bad reviews about Mandalorian. Like for the movies, like it's a hit and miss with some people. Like you have people who hate it, who love it, but so far for Mandalorian, I think everyone's like on the same page. Everyone agrees that it was amazing.
Also, fun
Because while
fact.
it's in the Star Wars universe, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, fun fact. The cast did not know that Mark Hamill would be there in the season finale. For them, it was a shock as well. Yeah, so that was really nicely done.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, great thing. You were saying?
No, I was just saying like it was like they were aware of their fan base, and the best part was that even the directors were like huge fans. I mean, the director who did the episode for where Boba Fett finally dons his armor and goes to war with all the stormtroopers. That episode was directed by a person who was a diehard Star Wars fan, and he literally for that scene he didn't go for storyboards. He used his own kids to recreate the entire scene with his figures and his kids and everything, and he presented that idea to Jon Favreau. And I was watching one of his interviews, and he was like, John was completely silent through the whole thing, and I was like, oh god, he thinks it's stupid. But when I stopped it, and he was like, why did you stop it? Keep going. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Go for it. Do it. So yeah, I mean, this is like a Star Wars fan dream come true, either casual or hardcore, be it any of them.
Very true. By the way, one thing good about season one was if you watch the original three movies back in the 70s, you're set. But for season two, you had to know the Clone Wars and Rebels and the movies. It's just, I feel that it may have alienated people who haven't seen, the rest of the material. Like
No,
Junaid,
that I agree.
yeah, Junaid, you've seen only the movies, right?
Yeah, I've
What do
seen
you
only the
think?
movies. I've seen one or two episodes of the cartoon series, which was purely bad CGI, but just putting it out there. So after watching season one, you kind of know where the story is going. I mean, I didn't see any of the other stuff for Star Wars. I just saw the movies. I was a movie fan,
Same
so I
here.
just
I
saw
was.
all the movies. I didn't get confused at all. I mean, there were some parts I was confused on Luke's part, to be honest. The way he comes again, I have one question regarding that part. The thing is, the story of Mandalorian is based around the fact that the Jedi's are killed. All of them are over. If the Jedi's are killed and Yoda is gone, how come Luke's back? I mean, this part, I mean, you told me to watch the 70s movies once again, but I cannot figure it out. The desert part, I saw it like two or three times, but I'm still confused on that part.
Yeah,
Still,
I think
I
you
want.
may be a little forward in the you've jumped to the
I want
last
to
three
answer.
movies. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
This is right after
the
the one
seventies
with
movie, like
the 70s
9 or
movie.
10 years. This story is set like 9 or 10 years after the seventies
Five,
movie,
I
last
think
seventies
five,
movie.
five, six,
No, no,
because the
Somewhere
Empire
nine.
has just
after the
fallen.
yeah,
Return of the
after Return
Jedi.
of the Jedi, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
because Luke is wearing his Return of the Jedi
Hmm.
suit, I would say,
So
I think
hasn't changed
which
his
was
outfit
pretty.
for 5 years.
like officially I've
I
read
mean,
it's like
the kind of badass his outfit is, I wouldn't.
Like he just wore the same thing. He's like, yo, I don't have any more outfits. I'm just gonna throw back
So,
Thursday. No, but the reason I asked you to watch that desert scene again was the beginning where Boba Fett goes into the Sarlacc pit and Luke ignites his green saber for the first time and
yeah.
stuff like that. That was important to know throughout this season, particularly.
Couple of fun
Um,
facts. Now that we're on the discussion of linking it up between Mandalorian and the original movies, uh, like the scene you mentioned earlier, the one with the green saber for the first time. Do you guys know why the saber was green? Why they changed Luke's saber from blue to green?
yeah, I know this, but I'm gonna give a chance to the others, the non-diehard fans, to answer this one.
like we're not diehard fans. We wouldn't know. Why are you giving it to us? Speak.
It has nothing to do with fandom actually. It's
Is it
I,
the crystal thing? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm gonna let's see if anybody else knows why.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff other than a
Okay.
lightsaber colors to see.
All right. So I'm gonna say, and then if I'm wrong, Mubarak can correct me. Basically, the scene where Luke uses his lightsaber for the first time in the sixth movie was against a blue backdrop out in the sky. Now, the problem was igniting a blue lightsaber against the sky blue would have made the lightsaber almost invisible. So they changed the
Oh,
lightsaber green so that it would actually be visible when he uses it in the daylight.
okay. So instead of a green screen, they had blue screen.
Yes.
no,
But
I
wouldn't
think they
it be
had
like
like actual sky
Hmm.
because they were doing this in the
wouldn't it
desert,
be
right?
like more like good for the part that Luke can like disguise his saber that the enemy didn't know if it's on or off?
I
No,
mean,
but the enemy can see it. It's us, the camera, like the cinema people, who can't.
exactly.
I
And
was
Yeah.
just about to say that. I was just about to
Also,
say that.
also, I think it was a great decision. Like, it symbolizes his step away from his father's lightsaber. It
exactly.
like it finally gave him his own identity. Yeah, that was actually an accidental but a really nice touch.
I'm a father like my Jedi. I'm a Jedi like my father before me. Sorry, I'm a father like I messed it up. It was such a good moment. No, it's funny. I'm gonna digress a bit, but it's funny. Like when we don't know the answer to anything, in real life or anything. It has happened with me in the office. There are times where somebody has asked me a question, and I go like, I'm a Jedi like my father before me." And it, everybody just gets confused. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about exactly? So yeah, use it, people. Use it sparingly.
The
Okay,
other
I think
the other
yeah.
feedback, just real quick, then we can move on to a different topic of discussion that can be presented by anybody else regarding Mandalorian or the Star Wars. So, quick question, and I'm pretty sure Mubarak knows the answer to this. Where does Boba Fett make his first appearance ever? I'll give you a
Yeah,
hint.
they're not gonna
I'm
get
going
this
to
one.
dumb answer and say Clone Wars.
No, I'll give you guys a hint. It is not. It is not Empire Strikes Back.
This was supposed to be a Mandalorian discussion, not ripping us off.
Technically, it leaks up to Star Wars, so I mean, anything goes.
It's part of
But
Star Wars.
I feel like if not Empire Strikes Back, but then Mandalorian season two. Like I guess because he it says there's a scene where she says that you're a clone or something, and I gathered that maybe he
Mm-mm.
was just a clone of the original Boba Fett or something. I don't know.
No, no, no.
But
I
Yeah,
meant
again,
correct
that
me.
that comes in the second movie, no?
yeah.
The chronologically second movie, the one with the Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he goes to that planet, the clone planet.
The chrono.
That comes first,
Oh
then
yeah.
the Clone Wars from the animated series, and then Mandalorian.
No, so I meant release-wise, the first ever appearance, because technically on screen, in the big screen, we saw Boba Fett for the first time on the Death Star when he's been giving the order to find Luke, and then again we see him in Cloud City. But that is not the first appearance of Boba Fett ever. The first appearance is in the Star Wars Holiday Special that came out before Star Wars Episode 5, and it was so bad that even George Lucas himself says he would destroy every copy he could find.
That is the most Star Warsy Star Wars that has ever been. I would like all of you to watch it. Okay,
No,
find a time when
no.
you're particularly sad and just watch it. You
It's
will be smiling by the
it's
end of it.
it's canon still.
Oh my god, that is like the best.
Um, I mean, if we get enough time, because we're doing 16, 17 movies per week, so it's either I watch this or I watch that.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that is true.
I started Bad Moms, and it's still like 20, 30 minutes on, and the rest is still paused somewhere on Netflix.
Okay, one fun thing is like from the holiday special, that design of the original Boba Fett was actually used for designing the Mandalorian. His rifle is based on that. His helmet, his mismatched colors. It was actually a really nice throwback when I first saw season one. I'm like, oh wow, they actually reused that in a nice way. It doesn't look goofy at all.
And I think another thing that makes the Mandalorian stand out more is that it's placed in a very vast universe, but the story itself is very contained, with just occasional, just like spikes touching back to the source material and back in. You're not fed too much information, but just the right amount of information to keep you on your toes and keep the stakes high. That yeah, there is something involved. Like for example, uh, none of us have felt this much about a ship since One Piece, and when the Razor Crest blows up, you're like, oh no, oh snap, because you kind of formed that bond with the Razor Crest. I mean, back in Star Wars, you could hardly care about Luke's Tie Fighter or anything of the sort.
Excuse me, my heart broke when Ray called the Millennium Falcon garbage.
Oh yeah, there was that as well. There was that
Mhm.
definitely. And by the way, in
I
Rise of the
was
Skywalker, when the Millennium Falcon comes back, piloted by Billy D. Williams, I was like, oh man, oh damn. Why Last Jedi? Why?
Also, when the Razor Crest blew up, I looked at the episode title. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. The
Tragedy.
tragedy. I'm like, that's the real tragedy right there.
I remember when
I was
the
more concerned about the ball rather than the Razor Crest.
He has it. Don't worry. He has it.
the thing
Yeah, I
is
even made a post about it. Sorry, man, I'm gonna cut you on this one, but I made a post about it. Like, at some point, Mando is gonna get a new ship, and he's gonna be in the cockpit, and he's gonna see a similar gear stick with a similar ball, and he's just gonna unscrew the new one and put on the old one, and he's just gonna sit there for a while.
Remember that scene in
Yeah, I mean,
season
that would have
one
made more sense. Yeah.
when he decides to go back for Baby Yoda the first time, when he's about to pull the gear stick but the ball's missing, and then that scene where he's just looking into the camera like this, just like staring into the camera.
Like you don't even need to see his face, and you can tell what he's thinking, like what his expression would be. Like,
That's the best part. That's the best part. I so agree with that. I
I
so agree with that.
I am fully on board with that.
Pedro is amazing.
He is an amazing actor. You do not expect so much expression from someone who doesn't have eyes, mouth, or anything, and he's
Exactly.
expressing
Like
himself
it's
so
just
much.
his body language, and you can tell what he would be expressing facially.
Exactly, like just you can tell when he's sad. You can tell when he's thinking. You can tell when he's upset, and you don't see any cues that show that okay, this guy's sad now.
Exactly, like when he
He
sees
never
the
takes his hands off
Baby
the
Yoda
button.
gets like almost testing upon scenes, you can almost about to cry about it. You cannot see his face or anything. And then he goes beyond the way of even stands up to the Mandalorians themselves to defend him.
Also, the
Exactly.
scenes without his helmet. Sorry.
Huh.
He's like, have you noticed like he doesn't use his peripherals? He like turns his entire face to talk to someone. He's like someone who's been so used to wearing a helmet. Like even when he's out of the helmet, he still thinks that he's in the helmet, which was like a pretty. It was like something so subtle, but when you notice it, it's just like, oh, I like that. Yeah.
And that's a good detail. I never noticed it, but now that you mention it, I do recall, like, the conversation that he's having with, what
Mayfield.
was his name? Yeah, with Mayfield. And he's just looking back and forth with the captain, who, by the way, is the same actor as the Night King in Game of Thrones. So, and I think I'm going to digress again a bit, but I think Mayfield's character development is the best I have ever seen. Like
Exactly.
it's for
Within a couple
5 minutes.
of
Yeah, go
like
on.
we only interacted with him. We only saw him like at max 2 episodes, like one back in season one and then one this. But the amount of character development he had in just these 2 episodes, that was amazing.
That really was
And
amazing. It's like you wouldn't expect that, and then you're just blown away by the end of the episode. You're just like,
And then you're cheering for him, like, yes, he gets
exactly.
to.
and you can see the conflict that he's going through, because these are the questions he's been waiting to ask his captain or any higher ups, that, yeah, what did our lives mean to you? And the captain goes like, glory to the empire. And that's when you realize that inside him something breaks, that, yeah, my
Yeah,
life is so
Like it
meaningless
was
to me.
already cracking, but that was like the last thing.
Okay, guys. So now that we've discussed the finer points of the Star Wars franchise and our mutual love for it, I think it's a good idea for us to go episode by episode with season two and discuss, some things we liked and some things we didn't like about that. So I'm going to start by talking about the first episode of season two, which was the Marshal. And honestly, I thought it was a really good episode. It was a bit long unnecessarily, in my opinion. I mean, like every other episode in the season was like 30-ish minutes, and this one was 40 something minutes. So I feel like it was a little unnecessarily long, but it was still pretty good. It had a good plot. I loved seeing Boba Fett's armor just randomly showing up in the beginning of the episode. Uh, Overall, great. And then, talking about Mos Eisley, because why not? You can't find a worst hive of scum and villainy anywhere else, can you? Just an overall great episode, in my opinion. Especially, uh, it had those tropes, especially from season one, like two people don't want to work together. We're gonna get them to work together and defeat this big problem we have. And I don't know, the episode just worked for me. There were a lot of good things in that episode. Definitely not my favorite episode from the season, but it's definitely like a really good episode, especially with all the callbacks and everything. Uh, and that's my opinion on the episode. I'm just going to pass it over to Sameen to discuss what she thought about the episode.
2 words. Great dragon. I'm a
Yes.
sucker for dragons of all kind, and hello. And yes, like it was such a amazing episode. Like it was such a strong way to start off a new season. Like all the small things aside, the whole uh, again the random Boba Fett armor drop out of nowhere and everything. But even the final battle, the climax of the episode, it was a really strong way to start off a new season. Like even if there were people who might have started from season two, they would have been interested. Like, okay, this is a good show. Let's watch the first season. Like, even if someone randomly came across the episode and they enjoyed it, it was just overall it was a fun and interesting introduction to the new season.
Okay, so ever since episode 5 of season 1, where they go to Tatooine for the first time, I've been waiting for Boba Fett to come up. Because ever since he went into the Sarlacc pit with his armor, you knew he was going to come back eventually. And he does in the now non-canon, the Legends continuity. He actually does come back, and he does have a successful life after coming out of the Sarlacc pit. So ever since, because and I'm a huge fan of the Legends, so I was just waiting for that, and so I've been waiting from season 1. They teased the boots, it's like you're just waiting for it, and then in season 2, there's a Mandalorian Tatooine. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be him, and then this dude shows up, and I'm like, oh, who? I'm like, nicely played. You fooled all of us. I
It's
am
Timothy
impressed.
Hutton.
Yes,
Hitman is
and I'm
not
like,
Star Wars.
and it's like when I saw the red sleeves and how thin he was, I'm like, yo, that's not him. Something's up. And then he takes the helmet off, and I'm like, oh, oh. And then the rest of the episode, really nicely done. Like there's the conflict, and then there's that willingness of the marshal that he wants to protect his people. So he's like, yeah, fine, we'll make an alliance with the Tusken Raiders, because they want the Great Dragon dead as well. Problems all around. But fantastic episode, great action, and it's like this is a way to start the season. Like, bam, explosion, and the Mando comes flying out of his mouth, the Great Dragon's mouth. Fantastic episode. What do you think, Junaid?
I mean, yeah. I'll just continue where Mubarak left off. Yeah, it was a perfect way to start off a season. Uh, I mean, you usually, if you want a big season, if you want people to enjoy the season, you start off big, and the biggest way was to just merge and make allies of three different tribes who aren't like usually getting along with it, but they make the Kratu dragon come here, and the Mando is the main center guy for alliance of all these things to have a basic purpose. And I mean, the thing again is nobody thought, as Mubarak says, at the starting of the episode, where the suit comes on. I forgot the name again. So, anyways, so the suit comes on, and nobody knows. He doesn't look like the guy who is the legend from the legends and the other storybooks and everything. But the thing again is the ending where he goes into the dragon. That was it. I mean, but I knew what I thought was he would just rip it off by a sword or something, or just cut through the middle of his neck. But I mean, they pulled it off very great. They pulled it off perfectly. And I'll just let Asad speak for the rest of the episode, for this episode.
Yeah, I like how Junaid just like threw shade that yeah, I talk the most, which is actually I actually talk a lot. But pretty much you guys have covered it. I think like basically this particular episode was the very starter. It kind of like coming back from season one into season two. Of course, you have a lot of expectations, like what is going to be the tone of the season, how is it going to be paced, exactly what's going to go on. And of course, pretty much everybody just thought, "Oh my God, Boba Fett is back!" And then, of course, takes off his helmet. He's Timothy Oliphant, and you're just like, "Okay, I'm glad Timothy Oliphant is there, but that's not what I want." So,
Speak
but
for
in the end,
yourself. Speak for yourself.
I mean, yeah, there's that. There is that. That guy has aged like fine wine. I mean, the first time I saw him was in Hitman, and that wasn't his crowning moments, I would say. But at the end of the episode, that's the funny part, where you see Boba Fett himself, be actually revealed. It's kind of like, hey, I got you, but yeah, Boba Fett is also there. It's kind of like that prank some people pulled off with their kids. Like they bought them the PS5, but they took out the PS5 and gave them the box instead. So they were just shattered a bit, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, we just played a prank on you. This is the PS5." It's kind of like the same thing doing that with us. And I believe there was another very adorable scene at the very start of the movie. Sorry, at the very start of the episode where I believe he's watching a wrestling match. The Mandalorian. He's going inside a wrestling match, and of course the point comes at him that hey, yeah, there's a bounty on you and all of that. And Grogu just takes one look at Mando, and his armor comes online, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of here!" And then he just pushes this button, and he's like, "Yep, that's going to work. That's going to work." It was even in the trailer, and that was the most defining moments of the entire season. So yeah, great episode, amazingly paced, and just blown away by it.
That's actually is a good start. We're starting pretty strong, but now we're probably going to hit the weakest episode of the season, which is episode 2 of season 2, The Passenger. And now remember when I've said this to you guys outside of the podcast, but I'll say it here as well, that Mandalorian feels like side quest the series. And no episode in the entirety of Mandalorian makes that more prevalent than this episode. Because it's literally, hey, you, we have a quest for you. Take this passenger to Flam Flam location. And now carry this person. They have precious cargo, and you have to make sure the cargo is not damaged. And if you do, game over. And like this was the episode that most felt like one of those side quests in video games, whether it be Witcher or Skyrim or whatever you're playing. It definitely feels like one of those missions where it's just like, okay, I need the gold to buy this thing, so I'll just go ahead and do it. And despite those elements, there are some redeeming qualities of this episode. One of which was the introduction of the X-wings as governing police of some kind, especially throughout the galaxy. I thought that was a nice touch, more of a world-filling touch. Uh, thought that was pretty nice. And oh yeah, it also had the restriction that you can't go in light speed. So he had to just like one of those taxi drivers that are just sick of life. So just Mando kind of just feels like that. And like these two things like really stand out in the episode. But apart from that, oh yes, one last thing. The throwback to season 1 where they attacked the jail. That one guy they killed in the ship. They had to use his head to communicate. So I think his name was Zero. Apart from like these couple of things, there's really not much to say about this episode. Still a great episode to watch, in my opinion, but very, very side questy. Sabeen, your thoughts?
Bad baby Yoda. Very bad. Almost wiped out an entire species. No, but yeah, it was like Skyrim, like I was getting flashbacks to Skyrim because I ignore main quests anyways in any game like Valhalla right now, Skyrim, all my playthroughs, I always ignore the main quest. I just go on side questing. So this felt interesting. It was like a little, it was sort of a breather episode, and I don't know, you could tell that things were building up. Like so, they were just giving us a little room to relax for a little bit, and then like, okay, just get ready for non-stop action after this. So take a break right now.
And yeah, I agree with Samin. So after that fantastic first episode where everything just blows up and like it's like gone off the meter, I think they had to bring us down. They're like, "Yo, just chill. You need to calm down." And it's actually a quite a decent episode. I mean, it's a throwback to Mando's side questy ways and how for him he just has to go where life takes him. But at the same time, mm, it was like you needed this. You're just like, yeah, I agree with this episode. I do. And there were a lot of fantastic parts. The action, oh, when like those spiders come, they start swarming the ship, and like that tense moment where you don't know what's going on. That was like fantastic action stuff, like classic Aliens or Starship Troopers. It's very like I like that. Also, Samin, I think I have an egg here.
You're not Yoda. You don't count. You're not Yoda.
Junaid, take it away.
All right. I didn't think it was a slow episode, to be very honest. I mean, it was a part of the biggest quest for him to find other Mandalorians. And to find other Mandalorians, he had to take a passenger to fulfill, to meet her husband, actually. I mean, the reason why he couldn't take the Hyperforce, okay, Omad, that's called a Hyperforce, to be very honest, not the thing which you said. Anyways,
Hyperspace. It's not even hyper. What's going on here? Hyperspace.
I mean, I was half
light speed.
hyperspace, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing again is, yes, Baby Yoda was a very bad Baby Yoda in this episode. I mean, I mean, how many eggs were there? Like 15, 20 eggs? And in the end of the episode, there were like 3 or 4 eggs. How can the mom just not notice that she had 20 plus eggs and just have 4 in the remaining? Anyway, so the X Force, the police squad, that was kind of, I mean, they didn't really help at all in a way. They were just coming, okay, you have to not go into this, we have to keep a check on you, we have to do this, we have to do that. The main purpose of the story, the episode, was him to find the other Mandalorians. And for him to go, Mandalorian is basically known to do side quests to reach his purpose. I mean, even in the first season, he does side quests. He kills like normal bounties to get the higher bounty. I mean, it was a decent episode. I didn't think it was a slow or it was a bad episode. It had funny moments like Yoda. I mean, I can't like forget him eating eggs. And the thing which just Mubarak pulled off, I don't know what happened to him, but okay. I'll just hand it over to Asad for the rest of this episode.
This shade is just getting out of hand. Yeah, actually, the thing is with this episode, I like that it sort of brought us back to the Mandalorian's own life. Yeah, I mean, like it's kind of like if all is said and done, he still needs to have some goal. He still needs to do some jobs. He still has a kid to take care of. He's a parent now, whether like it or not, and he also has a mission to go for. So of course he goes on that yeah, his ship needs repairs, and if he can get a job done, then of course he gets payment, and then he can get the ship repaired and everything. It's kind of a very stressful situation to be in. Like you're having a child at one hand, you're searching for the child's whereabouts, where to get to him. You're also protecting the child. You're also protecting yourself. It's a fish eat fish world out there for Mando, and it kind of makes us realize that no matter what, this world isn't the kind that you would want to live in, I would say. as attractive as it looks, just being on a ship out in space, it's not exactly as attractive. You can get stranded, and then of course, it actually does happen to him that he gets stranded, and then Chamber of Secrets all over again. Aragog's army is right behind Mando, and props to that frog for putting up with Mando, and at the same time being so dumb that she didn't count her eggs and realize, well, has somebody been having an egg buffet here? I don't see an egg fried rice around here. So it's kind of like that, and most of all is like like Omer said that it was like a side quest episode, but at the same time it was also like building the world. Like, yeah, there's so many things and stakes out there that just the humans themselves, just the Mandalorians, just the human looking species are not the only ones who live there or have higher stakes. It's basically a species that's about to go extinct and they need to protect themselves. So it's kind of like that. And of course, it just connects to the later episode that, yeah, he has to leave Grogu with them, which I don't know if it was a good decision or not, because he would have eaten more eggs than usual. But apart from that, it was a very good breather episode, I would say.
I think an alternative title for this could have been Single Dad Joins Uber. And then, you have that music from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
There was even a meme with that, like, worst whatever. Zero star.
The one thing which confuses me. Yeah, go on.
No, you go on first. Mine's just a joke.
Mine is kind of a joke as well. The thing which confuses me is the mother frog is so upset to meet her husband with the eggs, and she's so stressed out. But the part where the X-Force comes in, the police squad comes in, she's chilling in the pool. Like, I mean, dude, you have to go to your house. And Mando is like, let's go, Yalla, let's go. I mean, we have to leave. And she's just chilling there, like, I don't know, having the time of her life.
It was a hot water pool. She was warming. She was keeping herself and the eggs warm. It was a hot water pool.
And I mean, a hot water pool in winters, that's like the best thing that can happen.
On an ice planet, like that is
agreed.
Okay.
I mean,
I've never been into an onsen, but like I understand what kind of relaxing feeling it gives in an onsen.
Just saying, it could have been worse. Could have been a ripped up tauntaun on Hoth.
Yeah, that's probably the worst thing out there.
Yeah, I agree there.
And you people often think they smell worse on the outside.
Yep.
Anyway.
Also, my little joke was when Asad said fish eat fish, I was like, yo, maybe he should have said Grogu eat egg world. That would have made more sense.
That would have made more sense.
Yeah.
Frog eat egg. Egg eat frog.
Frog eat frog egg. So that's a frog. And I don't know. The closest
technically
thing
speaking, yeah.
Yoda species is frogs.
True.
Also, Frog Lady could have totally killed Baby Yoda.
Oh,
is that canon?
I know, right? I like how nobody addresses that. Like, she could have easily just come from Baby Yoda, and I mean, she's pretty much independent to just leave on an onsen. And she was like, "Yeah, I like this snack club. Here we go. End of season 2."
It's like when there was a little spider on Grogu's head. She shoots the spider. She could have just totally let him die. Like, yeah, that's what you get for eating my eggs.
I swear. Although she didn't know that he was eating her eggs. By the way, if she had known, then
she just had respect for her Uber driver. She's just like, I have to get it somewhere.
I can make more eggs after I get there.
Anyways, moving on.
Episode 3 is The Heiress. And this is probably like an episode that I didn't see coming, like miles away. Was like, oh yeah, sure. Like, okay, yeah, this episode's pretty nice. Oh, cool, more Mandalorian. Speaking of which, this guy cannot catch a break. Like, every time he thinks he's seen Mandalorian, just like take off helmet. Hi there. Damn it. Every single time. And it's just so
I so agree there. It's kind of like, oh wow, Mandalorians, finally my people. All of a sudden they take off. Oh god damn it, not you guys too.
It's just wrong for him. I mean, I feel really bad for him, but at the same time,
It's like a conga line of trauma happening for him.
like totally agree. But also at the same time, this episode gave us Bo-Katan, uh, and that is just something that's just great to see. Like especially, I love the actress who plays her. Like, she's in Battlestar, and like I'm sold. I'm good. But yeah, I thought this episode was pretty great. It had a lot of elements that you'd expect from a good side quest. I'm sorry, but it had a lot of good elements. It had meeting people, getting a plan in order, doing some kind of heist or some kind of siege, and then just having to realize, okay, we work together well. Maybe in the future we'll work together again, which is the case in this season. But having a character that a lot of fans are familiar with from the TV shows is actually a good thing to include in this episode. And the hunt for the dark saber just makes it all the better. And I just feel like this episode was very well done. And that's more or less my opinion. And Samin, take it away.
Uh, Again, Bo-Katan, it was a really strong, like a new female character. Like I think the last female characters we had was Cara Dune that we have seen more of, and even Ming-Na Wen's character, I forgot the name, but that was also a really good introduction. So again, female characters, they're going very strong, and yeah, Bo-Katan and even her whole team. And poor Mando. Yeah, you're right. He just can't catch a break with finding the Mandalorians. So, nay, but again, the whole episode, especially when the whole build-up is happening, I especially loved the whole scene where they are getting onto the ship, the Empire ship. I really love the cinematography there. Like there's this huge spaceship just taking off, and then like they're showing these 3 4 Mandos coming up on jetpacks. I really loved the whole shooting, the whole cinematography there. That scene was a very favorite scene of mine in that episode. But again, overall, again, like after the Frog Lady episode, you can tell that again things are picking up now. Like we're going back to another hype level soon enough. Bark, your turn.
I think this was a really well done episode. Like getting someone, a voice actress from like because she was a voice actress, Katie Sackhoff for Bo-Katan in the cartoon series for 2 cartoon series, by the way, and then they finally bring her in live action, and it's the same person. I'm just like, yo, that's some good casting right there. Like you have someone who already knows the character, who's been playing the character through the voice only. So now finally, when they get to use their face, that's like some good acting right there. It was a really nice episode, and the part that's the best about this is the part where the whole not removing helmet part. They teased that in season 1 that he was part of the Death Watch because from in the flashbacks so that was an amazing scene, by the way. When I saw it, like the first flashback, and then you see Death Watch, I'm like, oh my god, he's a terrorist, because they never teased that before. And then like that one scene, I'm just like, he's Death Watch, like because we've never seen something like that before. And then like in this episode, she calls them Children of the Watch, and I'm like, yes, they finally explained it, why he doesn't take his helmet off. It makes sense now. He's an extremist of sorts. It's like it's really well done. So that also explains all the other Mandalorians taking off their helmets, because it's part of the culture. Like the helmet is part of the culture, but taking it off is not forbidden expressly. Well, in the true Mandalorians, not this weird Death Watch thingy. Yeah, but overall episode really well done, really nice. They introduced just 3 Mandalorians, but well, something, and it's like you knew when you saw Bo-Katan and her crew, like, yo, they're gonna come back. There's gonna be something big, especially with her hunt for the dark saber, and then Moff Gideon, like, yep, intersecting paths anytime soon. Junaid, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So this was a higher episode than the previous one. I mean, they made the previous episode go below and then for this episode, they went pretty high with it. The introduction of Bo-Katan. So okay, for me, I mean, people love Bo-Katan. For me, she was like the Joffrey of the Mandalorian. For those of you who don't know, Joffrey is it's a Game of Thrones meme. Game of Thrones, like it's a Game of Thrones
Reference.
character. So the thing again is, yes, exactly. So for me, the part where he meets the Mandalorian three, okay, they introduced three characters. I mean, better than zero, right? I mean, finally he meets someone. Again, for Mando to meet every Mandalorian he's ever met to be maskless. I mean, it's like, hey, Mandalorians, and then they remove the mask, and he's like, ah, shit, okay, another one. And so, I mean, the build-up was great. I mean, the dark saber and finding Moff Gideon, and I mean, the plan was to lead them to Moff Gideon, and the part where Bo-Katan was so obsessed with killing Moff and so obsessed to taking the jet, which I mean, in a way, Mando was having a point there. But again, in this episode, as much as I loved the Mandalorians, I hated Bo-Katan. Yeah, I mean, it's a part of the storyline. I mean, I'll let Asad speak for the rest of this episode.
There it is again. I mean, there's not much to say about that. I mean, you guys have pretty much covered it, and I think the highlight of that episode was not just Bo-Katan, but at the end of it, when of course Mando says that, yeah, I held up my end of the bargain. Now it's time for you to do yours. And then Bo-Katan says one name, and it pretty much sends everybody into a frenzy. Even though I haven't seen the Clone Wars and all that, but even I knew that name when she says, "You will find Ahsoka Tano," and I was like, "Whoa, hang on, what?" I mean,
Exactly.
that's a
I have
major
the same
blowback. I
plan.
mean, that's a major throwback. It's a character that even non-Star Wars fan would just see and they would be like, yeah, that's a Star Wars character. It's kind of like Pikachu to Pokemon. So that's Ahsoka Tano to Star Wars. So you would know instantly, yeah, that's a Star Wars character. So it was brilliant the way they paced it. Like it's kind of like they drop a bomb on you when you least expect it. So that was a thrillback. And overall, yeah, it was a very good episode. Honestly, it was a really good one.
So the next episode we're going to be talking about is the Siege. Now, this was a good episode, and I honestly only have one thing about this episode that I really love, and that is that the fact that this is probably the only episode, and I might be wrong about this, but it's the only episode that actually makes it clear that a decent amount of time has passed between season one and season two, because we can see the changes that have been made in this small town, like not even small town, this town, like since season one, and it's pretty great. So that's more or less the only thing I like about this episode. I overall love the feel of this episode, and it has the same formula as the last episode, and it's just a great episode. Samir, take it away.
I forgot. The siege was which episode? Remind me again.
The fourth.
Uh, Cara Dune and Grief Kraga, I forgot how to pronounce his name. When he goes back to the planet and he has to do the thing. The one where he goes back to his home planet where he used to take bounties and all that, and he meets Cara Dune and everyone.
Okay. Wait. This is
And
the
they go
fortress.
destroy the Imperial
The
facility.
fortress that they blew up with the whole.
Yeah.
lava.
That one. Yes.
I liked it. It was
I should
it
have
was
led
good.
with
Like
lava.
again, it was a good build-up episode. Like finally, we're getting somewhere with the Empire. We're back on track for the main story. Like after the side questing from the maybe last 1.5 episodes, but we're back on track now. It was going strong. It's good episode. Again, I don't have that much to add. I will have a lot more to add towards the later episodes. So who's next?
Me.
Mubarak, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, so I think this was a good segue into the final arc. But this one I would consider half fillerish. Like it felt half filler, but there was like important stuff they've been dropping here and there. Overall, it was a good episode. I liked the classic throwback to the reactor thing. Remember, like in Obi-Wan did in Episode 4, the one in the 70s, where he goes and he turns off the reactor, and they're like he's standing on that bridge with no guardrail. Like really nice throwback, good Easter eggs over there. It was a good episode. I I'm okay with it, but I would consider this in filler territory. Junaid?
Okay, so yeah, it was a good episode. They are finally back on track to where it should have been, where Mando just fell off the track into the side quest stuff. The main point in this episode was that he came back to his hometown again, where he used to do the bounty hunting thing. Now he goes and meets Kara and Griff. Griff was the name, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
Let's call him
And they
Bossman.
had to bring the prison. Yeah, the bossman. Yeah, so they had to go back to the place to the headquarters thing, an extension office for the speed troopers and everything. So I mean they're back on track, and I mean the action is back, and I mean it's back. You can see a lot of stuff which has changed. A lot of new management has come to the homeland of his, and he's now more focused on getting the kid back to where he belongs and destroying the enemy on the way. For me, it was a very good episode. I'll let Asad continue the episode.
Again. So, I mean, I agree with everyone here. And if you notice, there's a pattern in all of the episodes that follow. Like, you have a chain of events, and then at the very end, they give you like that nugget that makes you come back for the later episodes. Like, for example, in this one, there's an Imperial spy that has planted a tracker on the Razor Crest for Moff Gideon to, just like track Mando's ship. And that's where you go like, oh no, this is starting to become high stakes now. So you can't wait for the next episode to go into. But overall, it was a nice episode. Always glad to see Cara Dune have a massive crush on her, anyways. So it was always good to see going back to the origins of the Mandalorian season 1 and everything. So great throwback, I would say.
That's perfectly summed up. The next episode is an amazing episode in the season, in my opinion, and that is The Jedi. And I don't know where to begin with this. The only place to begin with this episode is the same place where you end, Ahsoka Tano. And that's just it. Like, nothing else needs to be said about this episode, in my opinion. And I'd be lying if that was the case, because there's also one other thing that needs to be said. It does set up for the TV show of hers that's coming out. But, like, in my opinion, one of the best written villains in the Star Wars history, where she mentions Admiral Thrawn. And it's just like, yes, I need to know, where is this going? Do we get to see Admiral Thrawn later? And I've read the Hand of Thorn novels from way back when, and they were all just amazing. And he's just an amazing villain in the Star Wars universe. And just like the name drop is just great. And this episode was just overall just very great. The interactions and everything. I love this episode. Take it away, Sabeen.
Again, same Ahsoka Tano, like Rosario Dawson, she killed it, man. Like, I loved it. And it was such a spot on like portrayal. Like I've only seen like memes and small clippets from the animated show, but this was amazing. It was like very, very accurate to what's already been portrayed. But yeah, again, it's Star Wars. They're really good at like portraying the alien species, the non-human species. But really, again, it's amazing. Ahsoka, yes, like it really raised the hype bar all of a sudden. Like after like 3, 4 filler-ish episodes, like oh my god. Next person.
Okay, so I really loved Ahsoka's portrayal, her appearance. excellent. There's only one problem. I hate the Jedi. I don't feel that the Jedi should have been introduced into this. Like it should have just been a cameo. But like having, I mean, this episode was cool. Like you get to see the Jedi in action, Ahsoka in action. But then like you're like, yo, this is a Mando show. Why are they bringing the Jedi into this? And you're just like, ugh.
Technically, she's
But
not
I
a
agree. She's not a Jedi, but she's a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
gray,
yeah,
gray
yeah. Gray Jedi, would you say? Huh?
with white lightsaber. Sure.
Well, I guess. But just this the storyline is something that I have a slight issue with, like overall. But we'll get to that in the season finale. I will tell you everything that I want to talk about the Jedi in the season finale. Junaid?
Okay, so basically, I love this episode. They brought back Ahsoka, and the thing which I loved is Mando is trying to find a Jedi to train Baby Yoda, and he finds the Jedi through Elsbeth, right? The way he double crosses Elsbeth is the way. I mean, he's going on from the season one. This is the way. I'm a bounty hunter, and I will hunt for bounty. Whatever task is given to me, I will finish the task. But again, in this episode, he uses Elsbeth for a bounty, and it's the steel he wants also. So the steel is with Elsbeth, and he wants the steel. So for the steel, he double crosses her in a way. He finds the Jedi, and he finds that okay, this Jedi can somehow train Grogu. On the other hand, he changes the whole scenario and teams up with the Jedi to go to Elspeth, and we get a hint for the general as well at the end. So I mean, overall, we're going back on track. The main focus of this season was to get Grogu, the baby Yoda, to back to the Jedi's, and the Jedi thing begins in this episode. So I mean, I'm pretty happy with this episode. I'll go to Asad for the rest
So
of the
sorry,
episode.
I just have to.
Yeah,
Technically, Mando didn't betray Elspeth because he just asked, "Where can I find the Jedi?" He never said yes or no to like, "Okay, I'll kill this Jedi for you." He didn't say it like that. So technically, it's not like a
I
backstab.
mean,
Double.
technically it's not a
Half truth.
backstabbing, but again, he says that for if I bring you the Jedi or if I
Mm.
kill the Jedi, I will get the steel from you, and she agrees to it. But then he goes and then he teams up with the Jedi to
Mm.
come back to Elizabeth.
But she like Ahsoka gives him the spear. He doesn't want to take it
Yeah,
at the end, but she's like, "Yo, it belongs to the Mandalorian." So well,
I
he's like,
mean
"Okay, free
the thing
weapon."
again is nobody wants to take the reward at the end. Just like in our terms, we say whenever we go to someone's house, we say no, no, Ren in there. But from the bottom of the heart, we want it. So I'll just leave it to us for the rest of this episode.
I mean, the main, of course, thing was like seeing Ahsoka Tano and Rosario Dawson played it so well, and I am pretty sure that this was even a fan cast. This was a fan casting because she herself said that Boss Logic made a fan art of her as Ahsoka Tano, and when she was actually eventually cast for that part, I think John Favreau or Dave Filoni, either of these guys, they told her that yeah, we saw that fan art, and that's why we were like, yeah, that's our Ahsoka Tano. That's our girl. So I mean, it's kind of like another thing that a lot of my friends were talking about. I don't have much idea on that front. Was the Grand Admiral Thrawn, because a lot of people went just shocked, like, oh, okay, so he's there or something. Again, I don't know much about him, but so basically it's kind of a very good episode that shows you that yeah, Mandalorian, even though it's a contained story, it's still connected to the broader universe. It's not keeping them isolated or something.
Exactly. Um Also, like I just wanted to point out, I understand Mubarak's kind of gripe with this episode that Ahsoka probably shouldn't have been introduced. And in a perfect world, I would have agreed. But I just feel like the introduction was more existing to set up the future project that they do have planned for Ahsoka, right? So that's kind of more the way
Yeah,
that
I understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I respect it.
you know.
Like Lando says in the best Star Wars movie, Solo.
All right, moving on. We have a few more episodes to
Moving on.
cover. The next episode, episode 6, the tragedy, and when this episode's title was announced, everybody kept thinking, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis is going to be explored in this episode. The memes were agog, and I I just have to say that I was not disappointed by this episode. It gave us Boba. It gave us the return of that sniper chick whose name eludes me at this moment. It gave
Fennec.
us
Fennec
Fennec.
Shand.
Fennec. Yes. It gave
Yes.
us the return
Ming
of
Na Wen.
Fennec. Yes. It gave us a epic visual Grogu on a stone that we didn't know we wanted, but we got. And
Deep lighting to the reverse.
and this last thing I'll say before I hand it to
Yeah.
Samin, it gave us Slave One. Take it away, Samin.
Anyway, it gave us
Slave
what?
One, which is the ship of
Slave
Boba Fett, basically.
Boba Fett's original ship is called the Slave One, and he has the same ship in
Oh,
this
oh,
episode.
okay. So basically, I cried when Grogu got taken away. I cried when the Razor Crest got blown up. But oh my God, those killer troopers! That was amazing.
Yep.
I at that point, like obviously they were being set up like for an end game sort of fight scene, but even those few clippets, those few scenes of them just coming down and taking baby. Oh wait, we know his name now. Taking Grogu away. Even those few clips were amazing. Like wow.
This was a fantastic episode. When I saw the title, I'm like, oh no, something's gonna happen to Grogu. And then when the Razor Crest blows up, I'm like, oh, that's the real tragedy over here.
For sure.
I'm like, no, his ship and like all his stuff. And like, oh, and then when he pulls his spear out of the wreckage, and like, I'm like, oh no, he's lost everything. And this was a fantastic episode. And then Boba Fett coming in, and he's just like, yo, I need my armor. And then when he gets his armor, he's like, I'm gonna go badass right now. And he just starts annihilating troopers. I mean, he was doing it without his armor as well. He's just like with a stick. He was like, yo, Tusken Raider time. And then just starts beating everyone up. Fantastic. I really like this episode. It's really well done. Junaid?
Okay, so yeah, I love the episode. Again, with the title of the episode, the tragedy, I really thought it was something going to happen with Grogu, but okay, thankfully it wasn't. It was just the ship. I mean, not
Wait,
just
what do
the
you mean
ship,
it
but okay.
wasn't?
I
What
mean,
do you
it
mean
wasn't
just the
something.
ship? What do you mean just the ship?
I mean, he's already he's already done the ship a lot of worse damage than this. They've made the ship from scratch for him again and again. Poor builders. That's what I can say. But okay, so the thing which I loved and was a bit sad was he went for the steal after the ship was destroyed. But if I'm not mistaken, he also picked the ball up, which Grogu used to play with, right? And I love the fact that they introduced the Dark Troopers in this. I mean, it was a build up for a very huge thing, and which is obviously a kind of an end game for the season. I love the fact that they introduced a foundling and they referred back that the Mandalorian wanted the armor from him, but at the end he found out that okay, you're worthy of having this armor and you can have this armor. And he pledged his allegiance with the Mando that okay, we took an oath to protect Grogu, but since they took Grogu, so we are under your service until Grogu is being brought back. I mean, this episode was perfectly built, and that's what I can say. It was perfectly built and it was perfectly executed. And I will hand over the rest of the episode to Asad.
So, I mean, the thing is that you guys have pretty much covered it, and I think the main question everybody was asking, like, oh, who is Grogu trying to contact, and like, who's there now, who can answer to his call? Like, none of us, we always thought that, oh, okay, maybe maybe Luke Skywalker, maybe Leia, anybody. So the thing was that it was like a very, it's kind of like a open-ended thing that, okay, he can contact anybody if he wanted to. And then, of course, the Razor Crest blowing up, the Dark Troopers and everything. So, of course, you now see the stakes are starting to get higher and higher. Grogu's gone, his ship is destroyed, but he has allies. So it's kind of like a very, if you compare the scene, like where at first he had the ship, he had the baby, and he was alone in the first season, and now he doesn't have the ship, he doesn't have the child, but he has friends. And that's where you see this character development take place. Like, he goes from a completely non-trusting person to finally giving in to asking for help, and that's what you see in this episode. So yeah, a really good one, I would
Yep. Overall, it was a really good episode and I loved it. Now, let's talk about this next episode, The Believer. Now, this was nice. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I mean, I liked it a lot, especially since it's more of that, everything's coming together kind of thing. Like, oh, Fennec and Boba are together. And then we have Cara Dune joining the party and the Mando is there too. It's like, yes, mini Star Avengers, let's go. Let's go fight Star Loki. And overall, it's just.
Hey,
I mean, just going to stop you for a small comment, but I know Asad will hate me for it. But the smirk which Kara gives, I mean, I hate it. See, like, the bad guy who gives a smirk, and I'm gonna f this up, and nobody's going to stop me for it.
I
like
can't
I know
say
I'm going to get away with it.
I can't say I agree with that. I'm in love with Cara Dune over here too, but just overall, it was a great episode, beginning to end, well paced, everything fantastic, kept you on edge a lot, in my opinion. Like, are they gonna? I mean, there were parts of you that knew that yes, they're gonna get out of this, but it was like, how are they gonna get out of this? Right? It's like really good, and that character development. I forget the shooter's name, and I agree.
Mayfeld.
Yes, Mayfeld, great development, like brilliant. I mean, I don't think I'm well equipped enough to speak on that development, even though I love it. And I'll let one of you guys take that development on in better detail. So that's all I have to say about this episode. Sameen, take it away.
I can continue about the Mayfeld development. Like again, we've only seen him previously, like in one episode in season one, and there he was like a negative character. He was an antagonist, and now the subtle switch that he builds up to switching to a protagonist. Like again, that development was amazing. Like you see him like talking to that spear officer, and then even the backstory he told Mando before, like on the way, it's like he's breaking inside, and like that final conversation just before he shoots that spear officer, I forgot his name. That was like the last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back. Like he's done now. Like that's it. Like just shoot him and let's walk away. Now the walking away part, let's see how that happens. But yeah, that was like one of the best parts. Like, and the second best part was, you guys can fanboy over Cara Dune, but I was just sitting in my corner fangirling over Ming-Na Wen's Fennec. Like, yes, Ming-Na Wen. Uh, Next person.
Yeah.
Tag your Mubarak.
Yeah, thanks. Um, I think this was a fantastic episode. This, as Amir said, this kept you on edge. You're just always like, what's going to happen? How are they going to get out of this? It had that feel from the very beginning of the episode. And then, like, when they were deciding who gets to go into inside the facility, it's like people being singled out. And then, like, you're down to the logical choice of the Mando going with Mayfield. And you're just like, oh, he's gonna have to go undercover and he's gonna have to remove his helmet and all that. What's gonna happen? It just, oh my god, there was like so much happening. And then Mayfield's development, I'm not gonna talk about this at all because it was just too good. It was too good. I'm gonna let Asad and Junaid take this detail. One thing that I have a problem with this episode is the Operation Cinder. They didn't explain it too well. Fans of the game Battlefront 2, with who know that backstory, they know what Operation Cinder was. But for the casual fans, just like, what? I mean, they should have explained it just a tiny more in detail. Just that would have just made the perfect sense for it all. Just so the audience knows, Operation Cinder is when Palpatine, after he dies, his pre-recorded messages go to all his Imperial officers, telling them to burn their own settlements. So basically, it was Imperials killing other Imperials. So that was why Mayfeld felt so angry at his officer, because his officer just like, yeah, it's, we did it because it's the Empire. But he was like, we lost people, we lost our own people. We started shooting our own people. How does that make sense? Oh, and that being the tipping point for his conscience to just step in. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then like the very end with the slave one and the seismic charge, you're just like, oh yes! That when Boba Fett blows up the TIE fighters, I'm like, yo,
That's so good.
yeah. It was too good. It was good episode, yo.
Okay, yeah. So this episode has a lot of turnarounds, and I love this episode. The thing which they did with Mayfield was just brilliant. I mean, in a way, both of them were emotional in this episode. Mando, the part where Mando was supposed to, the Mando like asked that I will go with you with the Mayfield. The guy who's playing Mayfield. Mayfield is portrayed like brilliantly in this episode. The whole backstory of Mayfield is being portrayed, and he's already emotional, and he's going to meet the person who caused all of this, which is the general. Now, the part which shook me a little bit was that how will Mando take cover in, because he had to take the mask off, and what will they do with the correct character of Mando? So what they did is, I mean, they did it pretty well that they dressed him as a stormtrooper, and until they made him go into the where he was going to scan other stuff. I mean, the computer thingy, and the general comes. The point where he had to take the mask off, you could see clearly that he's broken inside, and that whatever he stood up for was just shattered into pieces. And when Mayfield sees it, Mayfield he gets shattered even more. That okay, a guy who I know and who can spread this message across all the people who are in the same mission will know and will see my identity for it. But he covers it. I mean, he gains his trust in simple words. And the point again where the general says that okay, we had to do this, and this much guys got killed, and it was for a cause, and it was for the what's the word for the I think
For
Omer
the
knows. I forgot the word.
Empire, I think.
Sorry,
For the Empire.
For the
For the
Empire.
Empire.
for the Empire. Yes, for the Empire. I mean, at that point, Mayfield was just like he could have ripped his head off, but he controlled for because they had to complete a mission. At the end of it, again the fanboying of Asad. Again, I hated the smirk. To me, I wanted to rip her head off. To be very honest, and I will let you continue the episode.
Uh, just not much to add here, but I mean Mayfield's like his character development, and then of course you can see, just to reiterate Junaid's point, like how broken this man is. uh, he is no longer the Mandalorian. He's now Din Djarin. Now he's no longer the Mandalorian. He's basically a guy who's gonna do anything and everything to get the child back, get Grogu back, and just go forward with that. So I would say, like, this was a very emotional episode to see, like to see Din be in this particular form. So a really good episode, like a semi finale, if you will.
Like, I would like to add, like, what Asad and Junaid said. Like, it shows how desperate he is, how attached he's grown to Grogu to get him back. He's that desperate. And one little thing I want to add, like, his Papa Wolf speech to Moff Gideon at the end, I loved that. That was amazing. Like, that was like, yes, heartbreaking and wholesome at the same time.
No, that was indeed a great moment.
Sorry to interrupt. That was like the basic copy of what Moff did in the first season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was word for
Yeah,
word.
it was a direct, yeah, word for word,
It was.
and a direct thread that I'm coming for you, so you better watch
Yeah.
out.
One thing in particular about this episode that I really like, when the Mando takes off his helmet, he still acts like he's wearing it. Like, he doesn't use his peripherals. He uses his entire face to look at Mayfeld and then, the superior officer. That's like some really subtle but really good acting right there. Good stuff.
It's the attention to detail. Like,
It's like the
again,
tiny attention. If you didn't notice it, then it's gone. But if you notice it, you're just like, oh, yeah. Umair?
Jason, thank you. Mubarak. Now we'll be talking about the last episode of the season, The Rescue. And as the name says it all,
yay.
they're going to rescue baby Yoda. And with the help of all the friends they made along the way. Uh, I love this episode because it's like this whole culmination of everything that's happened so far. And it could really, really just be like this finale. It could literally be Mandalorian, the finale. No season three. Screw you guys. Right? Pretty easily. And it it was good, and I could tell right now Mubarak has a lot to say, but I really enjoyed this episode personally. The hype was real for me. Like the moment you see the X-wing flying out the window, it's just like yes, 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 and then Luke Skywalker. Although to be honest, Luke Skywalker was a bit spoiled for me because of memes, but my hype was more real for R2D2, and it was just an
My
overall.
turn?
It was just an overall great episode. And yes, I mean it's your turn now.
Now you went quiet there for a second, so I thought maybe it's my turn. But yeah, again, I didn't get it on when the X-wing appeared, but when I saw the gloved hand and he was just force throwing all the dark troopers. May I add, the music when the dark troopers were powering up, that Euro pop beat music, like that was fun. That was like a good like move away from the regular soundtrack, but it was fun. And now back on track, like when I saw the gloved hand, that's when I realized, okay, yes, it's Luke. I didn't get it on the X-Wing because it took me a second, but yeah. And then I was just like, yeah, I was just screaming throughout that whole entire scene. And then when R2D2 showed up, I think I might have let out a really high pitched volume. So if any of you heard me screaming, yeah, that was me. And then, of course, the ending broke me in pieces. I legit cried a lot. Like, I think I might have finished a whole roll of tissues on the ending. But yeah, I think maybe we should keep Mubarak in the end. Apparently, he has a lot to say this time. But sure, go ahead. Oh, he's ready. Go for it.
Go for it, boy.
Okay, so fantastic episode. This is how you're supposed to do a finale. You get the old fans, the new fans, you get everyone in. Okay, the this was like one of the. It's like a perfect episode. Like if you look at it structure wise, you have the build up, the twist, and then the consequence. It's like everything in this has so much weight. It's so amazing how they did this. Like I was especially blown away by the score. This entire like the as Samin said, the dubstep. Oh, good stuff, good music right there, and you knew it was gonna be heavy. Oh, such a good episode. Okay, as I said that I didn't like the Jedi, but for this episode, I love the Jedi. I'm on the Jedi side now. Junaid, take it away.
Okay. Okay, this episode was just perfect. It was the perfect way to end the season. I mean, even if the third season doesn't come out, this was a perfect ending for the season.
Hmm.
The thing which I loved was the reaction that for since Mando met the other Mandalorians, including Bo-Katan, the fact I loved was that Bo-Katan has been waiting to get the Jedi, to get the lightsaber, right, the black saber, and the fact that Mandalorian, the Mando, gets to fight Mob Gideon and defeats Mob Gideon and takes the lightsaber. That was the place which was like whoa. And then he's trying to give the saber back to uh, Bo-Katan, right? And she cannot have it because that's the way you have to defeat the other person to get the lightsaber. Otherwise, there is no use of the lightsaber. That to me was like perfectly built. The fact of when the Dark Troopers came and the fight scene with them before the fight with Mob Gideon, that was perfection. And the main focus was to protect Baby Yoda in this episode, which should have been. I mean, we didn't see a lot of Baby Yoda in this episode, but it was the main like core of this episode. And when they were all stuck, all of them, all of the good guys, and they've defeated Mob Gideon, and the Dark Troopers are not being defeated, even though the Mandalorian like opened the hatch and they all flew away into space, and then they come back, and the good guys were all like, we're F in a way. And then we see the lightsaber, then we see the Jedi, and that was like, oh shit. I mean, shit's starting to get real like this, and then Luke Skywalker comes up. I mean, as much as I love that Luke Skywalker, they introduced Luke Skywalker back, and R2D2. Who can forget R2D2? I mean, that voice, just the beep beep boop boop boop, whatever it is, that was just perfect. I mean, you were like, oh yes, it's back. And but the thing I didn't like was that you can just see that the CGI effects were just not that good enough for Luke Skywalker. I mean, that was the only bad part for me in this episode. And for this episode's ending, well, not ending, but the review ending, I'm going to let Asad talk.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much this episode was just like it was just a way, like I said in the start, like it was a way of telling us that yeah, we Star Wars fans can enjoy something new, and we're not completely bound by nostalgia, and you can bring back the older characters, you can bring back the movie characters in the best writing way possible without disturbing the established lore. And of course, we're just waiting to see who's under that hood, even though we know it's Luke Skywalker, but we just want to see how what does he look like? And then, of course, he takes it off. Granted, of course, the CGI isn't all that very polished. It's a bit rough on the edges, but it also signifies that as long as the writing is good, the fans will forgive you for these kind of errors. As long as you give them what you want, what they wanted, with a very good written story, then of course they are going to forgive that mishap. Like, okay, fine, yeah, we understand. Mark Hamill is old. Sebastian Stan hasn't been cast as Luke Skywalker yet. If he was, it would have ruined everything. But I would say that this episode was a culmination of a very, very good series, and like it opened up the avenue for so much more. Like you have the Book of Boba Fett coming now, and then of course Mandalorian season 3. We want to see like, okay, how and what happens. Then of course there's the recurring question that, okay, if he went with Luke Skywalker, is he one of the casualties of Kylo Ren? Is
We don't
he,
talk
or is he
about
not
that.
this? Yeah,
We don't
but
talk about that.
it's still a question. It's still a very valid question. Is he going to be there? Is he not going to be there? What's going to happen? So yeah, but overall, it was a very good episode. I would say it was the best finale that anybody could have asked for.
I would kind of agree with
It was
that,
like really
honestly.
well done.
Yeah, and the only thing that I'm kind of building upon what Asad just said, and it's more like the problem with anything that takes place like in an expanded universe within this Star Wars universe, especially the canon universe now. We know that nothing is going to succeed. Nothing is going to be this, oh yeah, everybody won situation. Like, because we know what happens next. We know that the first or like after this, we know the first order is coming. We know that things are going to get bad, and we know that Mando probably didn't make it at some point. Like at some point, he's going to bite the dust, and like we know this because he's not there later.
It's a foregone conclusion in a way, basically.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's like going into Rogue One. Like you go into Rogue One and okay, yes, they die. There's nothing we can do about it. This is happening, but we're watching this movie anyway. And it's the same thing with anything you watch that they're going to come up with now. Like whether it be the Ahsoka Tano, whether it be Boba Fett, whether it be anybody, we know that none of these guys make it to episode 7. Or none of these guys make it to a point where they are relevant enough to be even talked about in episode 7. So there things are going to happen to them. So that's just something that we have to live with. And then that brings up the Baby Yoda thing as well. We know that he's not something's going to happen to him because he's not there, and we have to just live with that. And now I'm going to
I
let
have
and now
Mobile
we
say
have to
some
wait
stuff.
all the way to end of 2021 to get something.
yeah, it's a long wait. There is one workaround that they could have taken if they had not gone this Jedi path way with Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. So back in the old in the Legends, there was this Jedi uh, who fought in the Clone Wars, and he left the Jedi's to join the Mandalorians. And Mandalorians are really well written in the expanded universe, now Legends. I feel that they should have gone that way. You have a Mando Jedi who trains Baby Yoda, and then you can actually tie him into the Mando culture. It could have been a experience for Mando and for Baby Yoda at the same time. But then this Jedi path they went like what you guys said, like we know that they're not going to show up in any of the later films, and it kills me a little on the inside that they could have taken a totally fresh path away from the Skywalker drama. I mean, this episode redeemed Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, because that was just absolutely ugh. But this was a good, like, this redeemed him when, like,
Garbage.
they shouldn't have written him bad in the first place for them to actually have to redeem him like this. This is what it should have been. Badass
I
Jedi
agree.
Master taking down,
Like full
Dark
of
Troopers or in
this full of hope
Yes.
guy who's confident,
Yes.
like, yeah, I got it all figured out. I have a plan. And like, he's logical. He doesn't just believe in visions or something. He's like, yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna take this thing logically. Grogu summons him and he puts a message out. Luke Skywalker is like, oh, okay, there's a guy who can use the Force. Good. Addition to the Jedi Council and all of that. Goes on, saves him, and of course he realizes what Din is going through, the emotion that he is feeling. Like, this is somebody he has to part with. And of course, that emotional moment when he takes off his helmet, because this is a particular show, like, he's not exactly renouncing his Mandalorian way, but for that kid, he will do anything.
Yes.
All extremes
No,
justify the means.
and the thing with the taking off the helmet, like when Anakin was dying and Luke saw his face for the first time, he took off the helmet when he was dying. So the parallel is there. And again, what you guys are saying, like in the Last Jedi, like Luke is pretty much like a broken man in the Rey trilogy. Because right now he's building up his school and everything, and then the Ben Solo, the Kylo Ren tragedy happens, all his disciples getting killed and everything. So that's going to happen. So obviously it's going to break him. Like he's personally traveling to all these places, finding all of these potential Jedi to train them. Like he's forming attachments to them. And then to lose all of them in one go, it's going to break him. So we know that he is going to be like a broken old man by then. So I don't know. The differences between that Luke and like this hopeful Luke right now, this like potentially like hoping for a very good future Luke, like these are like jarring contrasts. Like they're like heartbreaking in retrospect. And you see that sad old Luke who's living like a hermit all alone, and then this Luke who's personally traveling and picking up his potential students.
Yeah, if we just let them go the path of the new trilogy with the Rey trilogy, Grogu's gonna have one bad dream or one dream where he dreams of eating eggs, and Luke's gonna say, "I'm gonna kill you, Sonny. You shouldn't have done that."
But
No.
again, we have to wait. Maybe Grogu wasn't at the academy at the time. Let's say what happens if in the next season Mando thinks like, okay, maybe this isn't working out. Maybe Luke says, okay, it's not working out. Take him back. Like even
I've
Ahsoka.
seen so many memes about this.
Maybe he starts eating eggs there in
Yeah,
the academy.
I
And
hope
Luke
he
says,
bullies. I
just
hope he
take him
bullies
away.
Ben in school. I hope he bullies Ben in school.
Yeah, but there's so much that can happen.
but they should have gone the path of the new Mandos. They should have introduced Mandalorians. I mean, they've called the show The Mandalorian. You'd think that they'd have more of them rather than just the five people in here.
No. There's
No,
definitely
let's see
more
now. We
around.
have dark,
There's,
like Mando Din Djarin, he has the dark saber. So let's see what happens in the next season.
Yeah,
More
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
like how I would have written this was, uh, instead of Luke showing up, it would have been that Jedi master who turned into a Mandalorian and the rest of his clan. So you'd have like a whole team of Mandalorians coming in, fighting the dark troopers and all that.
Gar
And in
Saxon?
the end, it wouldn't just be the other ones. They're from the books. Clan
Oh, okay.
Skirata, Barton Jusek, and all these other guys. And
Oh,
like,
okay.
it would have made an excellent season 3. They would have easily led into season 3 with now Bo-Katan teaming up with the Jedi Mandalorian and Din Djarin to take down the rest of the Empire. I guess if we're going to see Admiral Thrawn in this, it could have been that they could have retaken Mandalore that way. It would have been really, really nicely done. But again, I respect this decision of going the Jedi way, although I absolutely hate it. Like Mandalorians, Jedis are like natural enemies, like Mandalorian and Sith,
Yeah.
and Mandalorians and Mandalorians.
Everyone.
Mandalorians basically hate everybody.
They've ruined Mandalore. Yeah.
Good talk, I would say.
Again, let's see what happens.
Yeah, great talk.
yeah.
Yeah, season 3, I'm excited for. See, Book of Boba. That was an
Book of
interesting.
Boba, exactly.
Yeah, like what's gonna happen there? Are they gonna
Uh,
introduce other people? Is Boba gonna be the new crime lord? There's
Maybe
so
more
much
Mandalorians there.
backstory.
Maybe more Mandalorian there.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. Maybe.
Yes.
There's so much potential with the Boba show. I mean, there's potential with the Ahsoka show too, but over there you'd know that it's all Jedi business. On this side, you don't know if they're gonna go with the crime aspect or what kind of how they take it. What's good about the Book of Boba is it's gonna feel fresh. It's not gonna feel recycled.
Yep.
Especially now that Filoni and Favreau, they know which direction to take this, how
They
to please
do.
the fans
They do.
and people who aren't fans particularly. It's, yeah. Any other thoughts? Good or bad?
No, no, none
I
for me.
think that's more or less everything. And on that note, to everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks to Samin for joining us for the first time, and hopefully a recurring guest on some other episodes moving forward. And now that this episode is fully recorded, you guys can also go ahead and read Mubarak's full write up, his own breakdown of every single episode. That'll be on the website. And with that, thanks for listening and good night, everybody.